Hey HTDA and welcome back to Ixion. After optimizing the first chapter, at least I think we did, and farming pretty much every resource here that we have here, at least all the important stuff, today I want to go to the next zone and see if we can get a couple of things up and running, really explore the technology tree, and basically see what's in the next zone. So let's get to that. I would argue we have all the resources we're going to need, but if you really want to optimize things, you could stay even longer, farm the last little bit of resources and make more stockpiles even maybe. But as you can see, we have plenty of stuff in here already. Now, the main reason why you might want to do so is the technology, because we are producing a fair amount of passive research now. It's only 3 every 5 cycles, so it's not fast by any means of the imagination, but it is producing. And considering most of these upgrades over here cost are only 30, you stay around for 50 more cycles, that means you can take another upgrade to the next chapter already unlocked. However, I think we've spent enough time here. Let's move on.
Full jump complete. Running preliminary diagnostics. Severe hull damage has been detected following self-similar traversal.
Again.
Hypothesis. Each vol jump causes irreversible damage to the Tycoon structure. Predictive modeling suggests that 4 more vol jumps are possible before the Tycoon breaks apart. New mission objective established. The Protagoras possesses coordinates of the habitable exoplanet Remus. We must find the Protagoras in order to reach our destination.
Well then, at least we know we're not going to do a lot more jumps with this spaceship, and it did actually seem like we made it into a different star system this time around. There's some electric clouds over here, there's something, I'm not sure what this is supposed to be, like gas or something over here. So far so good. What is not so good is the fact that we have again blown up a part of our hull. Now, a lot of people argued when this game first came out that this was a horrible mechanic. Why do you need keep repairing your hull? Doesn't make sense. Why can't you fix the hull permanently? Things like that. And I get it. I get where you're coming from. But this is basically the same mechanic as in Frostpunk with the coal, where you have to heat up the place, and as you progress the game, the temperature goes down and you need more coal to heat up the same places. The mechanic is the same. Of course, how it's implemented is not, and it might not necessarily make sense that you need to keep plugging the holes in the ship. However, given the fact that the ship is a giant ship holding hundreds of people, that is kind of falling apart as we jump across the universe, I think it's plausible enough. And it's a base resource, so it's not a huge thing. However, as you can tell, right now, we are down to a +2 balance. So that means that one of the first things we're going to need to do is upgrade our hull repair facilities in order to make sure we can expand, for example, to a new sector. Because if we open one more sector, we're already back into the minus. And honestly, if the optimal working conditions that we currently have in place go down, for example, because there's an accident and some people get injured, we're already in the minus. Now, that won't immediately kill us or anything like that, but it is something that we need to be very aware of. I like this system, but I can see why some people feel like you're always kind of fighting against the game. That's kind of the point, but still, I get it. All right, let's see what we're going to do. So what's interesting is that the game is not only telling me to search for any signs of the Protagoras, it's also telling me that we're going to locate a viable planet and train some colonists. So this actually suggests that we're already going to colonize some planets, which I really like. I didn't expect that. But in order to do that, we're actually going to need to find the planet, so let's start with sending a science ship to Falcon 74. Well, that's just great. Apparently, because we left the solar system, we also get a stability penalty. And again, this is one of those mechanics that just needs to, just helps you to keep you on your toes and make things actually challenging. But, oh man, I thought we would get rid of this. Anyway, it's not a big deal. We are still in a positive thrust, but again, it is something we need to take note of. Okay, we are going to need a plan, and Honestly, first things first, we're going to need to do something about this hull integrity, because if we expand anywhere that is not in these two zones already, and we are running kind of out of space here, we're going to have a major problem, and if we expand to another sector, the hull is going to break apart. So, first things first, let's go to space, and let's get another EVA airlock. I think that fits nicely over there. And have a little road like this. Is this the most efficient way to do this? I don't know, it's probably fine. And this is where we're going to start. And while we're doing that, we are going to explore this planet. And we have a lot of options here. We can basically see what's going on. It's not the most hospitable planet. There's only... it's corrosive, there's a limited survival time, and there's huge geyser emitting gas. Now, what we can do is perform an intrusive analysis, kind of below the place apart, and see what we find. That's quick and dirty. We can set up a temporary study center, and that will basically allow us to invest some resources and see what's happening in more detail, or we can establish infrastructure to really support exploration and geological analysis. Takes some more time, takes more resources, but honestly we have plenty of alloy and we're going to be here for a while, so why not do it properly? In order to expand, once we have those repairs up and running, we're going to need more people. Those people are going to need to eat and they have to live somewhere. In terms of food, insect farms are no longer going to cut it, so we need to transition into crop farms and mushroom walls. In order to do that, we are actually also going to need more people. And those people also need to live somewhere. So I'm thinking we should start with an expansion of the crew quarters. Basically, there's two options that we have. We can either upgrade the crew quarters, or we can get the cell housing. This is minimal quality accommodation, but it's a lot of people in a single building. Doesn't sound too amazing, honestly, so I'm thinking to upgrade the crew quarters first. Doing this will allow us to have 40 people in a single crew quarter rather than 15, so it's 3 times as much almost. And they will actually be living in average quality accommodations rather than limited quality accommodations. So I'm hoping that will also actually give us a little bit of a trust boost. So this sounds like a win-win. So this is where we're going to start. Of course, I'm also sending out some probes. We found some initial carbon and iron, so we can make sure we have enough polymers and alloy coming in. And I'll just keep sending out probes to explore everything else as well. Almost forgot, but we definitely also need to turn on the cryonics center, because otherwise we won't actually get those workers, and it takes a little while for them to actually get going, so we need to turn that up sooner rather than later. So as this EVA airlock is being constructed, I also want a DLS center to basically do a lot of fun stuff in this territory. Now it has a pretty huge shape and it kind of gets in the way everywhere over here. It doesn't fit here, doesn't fit here. But what we could do is kind of fit it snugly into this corner and really optimize the usage of space over there. And that does mean that we need to move this out of the way. Okay, so here's the plan. Let's see. If we build another stockpile like this and like this, then what we could probably do is set this to alloy, set this to food, and as soon as that is ready, I'm going to set this to nothing, so the food should be transported over there. And then as soon as this one is empty, we should also set this one to empty actually as soon as this one is ready. The alloy will be transported out of here into somewhere else, and then we can build the mess hall over here. While we're doing all of that, let's see, we found a comet. Let's see what that hides. We have reached asteroid Dog 0202. The mining ship Sheptel was adrift nearby. It appears to have been pierced by a fast-moving object, killing its operator instantly. External markings indicate the Sheptel was a mining craft of the Protagoras. So we found our first clue. The lost sheep. Okay, what can we do? Not much, just extract the navigation data from the Sheptel to see basically where its mothership is. I love it when my people agree with me. They actually actively put in a request to basically awaken more people. 100 in 24 cycles is actually quite a lot, but I think we're going to do that anyway, so we might as well accept. Okay, I can almost hear you guys typing in the comments. TDA, the optimized quarter doesn't work that way, because apparently it doesn't upgrade your existing crew quarters, it gives you a new version of them. Now this is still more efficient than the previous one in terms of power, in terms of resources, in terms of space. It's just not exactly what I was hoping for. Still, it is going to be very useful nonetheless, because as you can see, it's exactly twice the size of a normal quarter, but with almost 3 times the amount of people, so this is still more efficient. basically what we can do, we can replace all these groups of 2 with one of these versions, upgrading the amount of people that can live there. We are upgrading the quality of their quarters, and we're also saving some power at the expense of a small amount of alloy. So we're going to do that over here. We are also going to do that over here, and that will still be a massive efficiency boost. And we can kind of replace all these old buildings with the new ones while we are waiting for other stuff to happen. Despite this little setback, let's focus on researching a mushroom wall next, so we'll actually have a way to feed all those new people. Meanwhile, back at Falcon 74, it's business as usual and our investments paid off. We have some very interesting theories on geysers and precipitation, but most importantly, we have a lot, and I do mean a lot, of science ready to go. So that is a pretty nice boost because this will allow us to unlock a full new building. Interesting. Our people basically want us to promise nothing will happen to the people on our science ship. Or ships, I should say. Promise that no member of a science ship will die in the Immortan system. I can't promise that. Promise that a science ship will cast use will not rise above 5. That seems more reasonable. I mean, this is all or nothing. I can also just promise nothing. We don't know what awaits. This seems the most... I mean, the most realistic one, but let's just go for the midway here. I don't trust us to have no casualties. There's probably something bad around the corner, so let's go with just 5. Okay, in the meanwhile, our stockpiles over here are done, so let's remove this one. Yes, dismantle that. We are going to set this to food, that's already done. Then we can set this to nothing, so it'll be emptied. And then all we need to do is wait until we have destructed that one, build a new mess hall, and then we can put everything into place. Oh wow, apparently aside from the navigational data, we actually got 2 electronics from this as well. This is really nice, and a ton of iron. So this is better than all of the asteroids we found so far, so definitely worth it. But what's even more interesting is that we actually get the opportunity to research this even further. See what caused the Sheptel's destruction, and well, it only takes 3 cycles, and we have 2 of those science ships. I'm really happy we have 2 of those, so why not? Turns out the ship was hit by a projectile, and it came from the UM. Okay, that's interesting. They were actually fighting in different systems as well, and again, a lot of science. So, well, the science part of this particular scenario is going very well. Speaking of science, we just unlocked the mushroom wall, and we also have this event over here that we can't actually do because we need a deep dive apparatus upgrade for our science ships. So why not? I mean, we have the first things we need to expand. We are still working on expanding. Where's my technology center? It's over here. Let's see, where is the science ship? That's over here. Let's go and upgrade those into a deep dive apparatus so we can actually do the event. My food is depleting a little bit faster than I would like, so I'm actually going to build a couple of insect farms just temporarily in order to make sure that we don't run out of food while we are expanding. Now these 3 is definitely overkill. And once again, keep in mind that everything you build you can just remove later on and you'll actually get your resources back. So we're not wasting anything other than just some temporary building space by placing these temporary facilities. Speaking of temporary facilities, I just moved the mess hall as well as the stockpiles over here, and yes, they actually needed to move slightly to the left because I miscounted. But anyway, that means the DLS will fit in here, and we should have that up and running and see what we can do with that. Alrighty, we have some deep diving equipment, so let's go dive deep. We have a lot of options here. Let's see, equipment has been deployed, but the gravity of the planet may complicate our operations. Visibility is nil. Atmospheric corrosive vectors are negligible. Okay, so it's pretty safe, but we just can't see what we're doing. We can release microprobes into the atmosphere, which cost a lot of resources, honestly. These are a lot more valuable than the alloy. Or we can build a weather station, it takes a bit longer, or we can do advanced infrastructure, basically do a proper job. It costs quite a bit of alloy, but we have plenty of that. It takes the most time as well, but that's again not something I'm concerned about at this point. So let's go and get this one done. In the meanwhile, it's worth noting that I also found a lot of asteroids over here with some iron and carbon. We have found a huge bunch of silicon over here, so that's nice to make some more electronics. And we have, again, more carbon as well as another planet. So plenty of stuff to do, and I keep sending out the probes, of course, wherever I can find stuff. For now, I'm leaving these zones alone. Not entirely sure what's up with those. I have a feeling we're going to find out soon enough, but for now, let's just play it safe. Speaking of playing it safe, there is actually an upgrade for the science ship that allows them to enter cryonic pods to survive certain emergencies during an expedition. Considering we actually have an event that is asking us to keep our science people safe, I'm actually going to research this. I'm really interested to see if this actually pays off at some point. Back in Sector 2, we now have the DLS up and running, which means we can set policies. So first of all, maybe before we go into that, it's nice to see that when you have a lot of the same types of building in a sector, you kind of get a little bonus. Although these bonuses, not too impressive. I mean, I don't really care about my batteries that much, but anyway, it's a bonus, I suppose. Most importantly, we can now set policies though. And for example, with food, you can either give people less food, they will become less happy, but food will become much more efficient, or you can give people more food, and then they will become happy and you have more stability. And you basically can do the same for working hours, depending on what you do with the infirmaries, with the cryopods, etc, etc. Most of that I'm not going to touch, but I do want to enable the waste recycling. So instead of destructing our waste, we're going to store it up. Apparently that makes people unhappy. Maybe because of the smell, I don't know, but this will turn it down. And this also means that we need to wait 10 cycles before we can place another policy in this sector. Now the awesome thing about this is if we set the propaganda to +2, then that means that we will have a net gain by setting these policies. But for now, we're going to start with the waste because we can handle a little bit of negativity for now, I think. Well, actually, it's even better than I thought, because if you look at the sector stability, we actually already got +1 from propaganda. So by setting the policy to waste, basically over here, this is already a +1, so this cancels out the -1 over here. So that's really good. That also means that we can now set one of these things to collect waste. So let's go with this one in the corner over here, and then this can all be transported to here and here, where it makes more sense anyway. With our food supply up and running again, I have a feeling that now is the time to expand to a new sector. And I'm going to pick this sector over here. I think it's sector 6. Yes, it is. And the reason that we're doing that is that the idea behind that is that we have our production over here. We'll have our food production over here. And in the middle here is where all our people are going to live that are not workers. So if we look at the overview here, I have 410 people in this sector, but only 227 out of those are actually workers. The other people are just costing us food, basically. I'm slightly inclined to just throw them out of the airlock from an optimization point of view. That's probably not going to make people too happy. So we are going to make a sector here that's just dedicated to storing as many people as we can that are not workers. Now, of course, that means that we're going to need a lot of food for those people, so we might as well have the food right next door over here. And then the fact that we need to transport some of the food over here as well is not going to be a big deal, I hope. I'm also going to build another DLS center over here so we can actually store waste from our technology center here. And I think at some point we have an upgrade where we can have our crew quarters producing waste as well. Yeah, so here, the waste recycling policy means that the quarters will produce waste at a rate of 1 waste per 20 inhabitants. So more waste means more food, basically. So that seems like a very good idea to me. Meanwhile, out in the system, we found another planet. Let's see what's going on over there. The opaque atmosphere lets in hardly any light. Geological formations on the planet's surface resemble giant emerald waves frozen in time. We have set up near the location of one of the cavities. So, pretty much the same options as before. We can do an intrusive analysis, quick and dirty. Again, let's go with the more extensive one. So far, it seems to be paying off. Well, we've got the emergency cryopods, and actually I want the exoskeletons as well, because I just found an event where we're going to need these, at least if we want to make use of the special option that it unlocks. So let's go for that next. Look at all this beautiful space we have over in Sector 6 and all of those alloys on the floor because we really need them. I've been burning through my alloy really fast. Has nothing to do with my supply. We have plenty of alloy in the system still, or iron actually, but I've been just building so much in such a quick succession that we're kind of depleted all these stockpiles that we have. We actually have some electronics here as well, which is really nice. Basically, the sector is paying for itself. Now, what I want to do here is be a bit more efficient than I was in my first two sectors, even though it wasn't bad. But I don't really like this whole road at the side. It's a really easy thing to do to just make sure you have everything connected. So from a supply line point of view, it's pretty efficient. But especially if you look over here, where we have been a bit more efficient by not sticking it to the wall, because we are losing out on some space here and there, just because we have that road here next to the wall. We still got into a bit of a mess over here because we tried to connect both these roads. So I'll try to probably only use 3 of these lines, because we do kind of need a supply line down the middle anyway. But probably just the top one, just to make sure that we don't unnecessarily make our own lives difficult. Alrighty, so first things first, we need to clean out all this annoying stuff on the floor, and we have some basic storage for alloys as well as food. I'm building a second workshop so we can actually do all of this a little bit faster, and of course we have a mess hall and some place for our people to live. Now, it's been 10 cycles since we implemented the waste recycling in Sector 2, which means we can now do a new policy. And of course, this is, I think, the most logical thing to do next. So we switch from normal propaganda to intense. There doesn't seem to be any downside to that, and we'll actually get an additional stability. Well, the downside is that we can only set one policy every 15 cycles, but I don't actually plan on setting any other policies because everything else seems to be pretty good as it is. So this is just free stability. Well, our massive research project on Parenti 85 paid off because we get 75 science, so that is, I think, worth the investment. Other than that, nothing really special going on here, so we'll need to continue on looking for the Protagoras. Okay, so we have a pretty nice and efficient starting layout over here. The area is starting to get cleaned out as well. And I have a stockpile here that I want to use for waste, but I can't actually set it unless we have a DLS in here. So let's build that. Actually, it might fit nicely snug into this corner. This is looking perfectly optimized and efficient, so I like it. In the meanwhile, we discovered yet another planet, so let's see what's happening over here. Apparently an unusual electromagnetic signal on the comet, so it's not a planet, it's a comet. Interesting. The ice comet is barren, but its rotation causes shadows to dance across its surface quite beautifully. The signal appears to be transmitting from a cave. The glacial mass blocks its entrance. We await further instructions. So we can set up a temporary study, establish infrastructure, and use explosives to clear a path or leave the planet. Feels kind of like the events in this particular order are quite similar, but let's just go for this again. If we once again get a massive amount of science, I'll be quite happy about that. Okie dokie, so we have the DLS up and running here, which means we are going to set the policy to recycle waste, so that should allow us to now also stock up the waste over here. Let's see, then we need to go to the resource tab, then we need to select waste, and we basically want to make sure all our waste is going here. Hopefully, yep, that should do exactly that. Actually, looking at this setup, we can do this a little bit more efficient. I think we can take down this workshop, so that's all save us one of those. And I actually think I want the alloys to be here and the waste to be here, because the waste can then be put into a mushroom plant that we're going to be building here, a mushroom wall, I mean. That also means that we need to have the food on this side, and so we can remove this one. If we do all of that, I think we should be pretty efficient with all of that and have a nice little layout where the waste is coming in over here from the other sectors on this side, so that we keep that route as small as possible. We can put that into the mushroom wall that we're going to be putting here. There we go. And then straight into the food supply over here, and then it can be distributed to wherever else it needs to go from there. In the meanwhile, we explored another planet, and in this case we found many crystalline cavities beneath the surface. Huge crystals in toxic and corrosive gases. Blah, 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 blah. Basically, it's a very beautiful and interesting planet, and the main thing is, and I actually clicked this thing twice so you couldn't see what the reward was, but we found some science. Now, would you look at that? We are turning waste into food with the help of some mushrooms. So mushrooms eating is probably better than eating insects anyway, but now at least we are putting all of that waste to some good use. We're not producing a massive amount of waste just yet, and I actually do want to experiment a little bit with the various types of food production that we have available now, because I kept researching, so we have the crop farms enabled as well, and we have somewhere, where is it? The fusion station over here. So we can transform ice into water, and just because we can, I actually also unlocked the waste treatment center from all of that research we got from the exploration of those planets. So if we have any spare waste, we can also turn it into alloy, polymer, or electronics. Actually, it feels to me that this might be the optimal way to go, rather than trying to turn all our waste into food. But let's find out. Speaking of finding things out, we have a ton more planets to explore. Some of which are actually in the middle of this well, this dangerous area. I'm not sure if it's dangerous. This one definitely looks dangerous. Not entirely sure about this one, but I guess we'll find out one way or another. I did flag this asteroid over here, for example, to be avoided, so you can kind of force your ships to stay in the safe zone as much as possible. We don't really need this asteroid anyway, but there's 400 iron on there, so maybe at some point we will want to go and explore it. There's actually a couple of upgrades you can get for your ships that makes it easier for them to go through dangerous weather. So let's find out how dangerous that weather actually is. In the meanwhile, I did start researching the colonization training center, because we actually found a planet that is potentially habitable. So really exciting. However, that will be in the next episode, and in the next episode I also want to see if we can get a crop farm up and running. If you're still here, you're awesome. Make sure to like and subscribe to the episode, and of course I hope to catch you in the next one.